you know, and we bring a lot of value to you. So I think firstly we streamline your hiring process. Okay, hiring, as we all know, can be a pretty time consuming process, and finding the right fit can be pretty challenging at times. So we make your hiring easy, efficient, and of course it's a time saver for you. We advertise the job, we screen the applications, we interview them, we check candidates backgrounds, and we recommend only the most qualified candidates to you. And if you like a recommendation, you can schedule interviews with them and you can decide if you want to hire them. And I think most importantly, we are pretty reasonably priced. Okay, we are very affordable. If you hire one of our work candidates, our placement fee is 10% of the hire's first year salary. I mean, if you do not hire, there is no cost at all. We don't charge you for the job ads or screening applicants or the time that we spent in interviewing candidates. So only when you make a hire that there is a cost to it. And I believe our fees are, comparatively less than the major other staffing agencies. And another important point that I wanted to mention here is, we are pretty flexible. Sometimes attorneys like to pay the placement fee in installments, and we help do that. They like to pay anywhere from say 2 to 5 installments, and we make it possible for your convenience. I think at the heart of the Bar Association is the service to its members, and placement service is no different. We make our services convenient, flexible, and valuable to our members. So please keep in mind that we make it very convenient, and it's an affordable service. And also another value that we bring to you is, we adopt a personalized approach. We make efforts to talk to you and know exactly what you're looking for, not just in terms of the job description or the hard skills, but also the soft skills that you might be looking for. The goal is basically to find you the best fit. And also a personalized approach in a sense that we cater to any kind of needs with any kind of budget. So you have a limited budget and you are looking for someone to fill for just 10 to 15 hours a week. We'll help you find someone with those hours. And we have a prorated guarantee on our candidates. Say, for example, if the employment terminates for any reason within the first 3 months of employment, there's like a refund policy. For if the person leaves within the first 30 days, we give you back the 75% of your the placement fee, and and likewise it continues. So we have a 90-day guarantee period on our candidates. So it is a good value for money, and we do due diligence with all the candidates. We do a good background search. We interview them, and we test them. We have a couple of tests that we give out to the candidates, and we refer only the very qualified candidates to you. So hopefully, you'll keep in mind for your future placement needs or staffing needs. You contact us. Okay, there's a question here. Is the cost structure for temp placement the same as part-time and full-time? It's what we do is, say if you hire somebody for a couple of weeks, okay, so there is like a flat rate, per week flat rate that we charge. If it, that's only for say a couple of weeks up to a month, but otherwise, we do a 10% of the salary that the person will be getting. I hope I answered your question.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah, Sabina, you mentioned the 15 hours a week. I think a lot of our members are even looking for like short-term project work,
Mm-hmm.
or they're trying to decide whether or not they might be able to hire someone as a permanent staff member. Do you accommodate even the very short-term folks?
Yes, we do. We do temporary assignments. Okay. Um, And I mean, it depends on people's, candidates' availability. First, we look into our resume pool, and then if we find somebody who's willing to do this, uh, we can send them right away. If not, I mean, I would advertise the job and then find somebody who is willing to do this. So yes, we definitely help find, people in very temporary assignments as well.
And Kristin, I want you to tell us a little bit about LawClerk. I know LawClerk especially, handles the short-term project style work. Why don't you tell us a little bit about LawClerk?
Sure. So we come into play for the help that you need in your law firm. That is the more substantive legal work. Okay. So but it's the written work only. You want to think things like research, drafting any sort of written document, whether it's litigation of nature, transactional, any sort of written document. We help with discovery, marketing materials, administrative behind the scenes stuff, and so much more. So we're a nice complement to Sabina and what they offer there with the different levels of office help as well. So yeah, you're right, Mike. We come in, typically all of the work is done on a project by project basis. So maybe you've got a huge appellate brief due and you've got 2 trials coming up. So you're slammed, you need some help to get that brief written. Great, come in. The great thing about LawClerk is that we've always got freelancers who are available and talented to get that work done for you. Really, I think to be another great point you made is you said you've been around since, what did you say, the 1990s? Outsourcing is nothing new. People have done this in the legal industry for a long time, probably forever, really. What's new is that there's now technology tools that make it so much easier for you to find the right talent when you need it and connect. And that's what gets me really excited. It's just that it's so much easier, thanks to technology, for lawyers to get the help they need when they need it fast. Because, this is a tough profession. And anytime we can eliminate one headache for you, we're really happy to do that. So yeah, our core part of the business is this project-based work. One by one, you need someone to come in and research an issue. You need someone to come in and write a brief on it. You need someone to come and help get your discovery organized. The cool thing too is that we've also built this feature called Teams. And what Teams does is if you have different practice areas or different types of work, you can, as you find talented freelancers that do a great job in those different areas, you can add them to your team and go back to them time and time again. So for example, we have a woman who is in Wisconsin, which Wisconsin neighbors Minnesota, right? I'm trying to yes. I was I'm from Nebraska originally, so I know the Midwest geography, but I was like my aunt lives there and my cousin lives there. And yes, those states are next to each other. Anyways, so we have a woman in a pretty small town in Wisconsin, and she is a general practitioner. As a lot of folks are when they're in a small town, you got to help with a variety of legal issues as they come in the door. So she's used our Teams feature and built a team for family law, a team for bankruptcy, a team for criminal law, a team for real estate, a team for estate planning. And so now she really is just the rainmaker, the face of the firm. She's dealing with clients, she's dealing with the court. And as soon as she gets a new divorce client in, she goes to her family law team, she tags someone, says, here's my notes from the client meeting, prepare the complaint for divorce. And while you're at it, go ahead and form up the initial discovery requests. I mean, what a huge time saver. So she's just continually on there delegating different work in these different practice areas to the virtual associates on her team. And the last I looked, I think she has around 14 or 15 different freelance lawyers that have been added to these different teams. Each of them has really, deep expertise in that specific area of law. And when you think about that in contrast to perhaps maybe, I'm sure that at times she's considered hiring an associate. That's a natural consideration for a solo or a small firm. There's no one magical associate you could hire who would have that level of deep expertise in bankruptcy and real estate and family law, to be able to hire to your team. You're going to spend a lot of time training someone. And so I love how this woman in particular has really used that. So, you've got the project work, you've got teams to help you build up people that you like on a regular ongoing basis. We also are sneak preview for everyone up here early. We are in the early stages of testing a subscription product so that if you know for a fact that you have a regular ongoing piece of work where you need help, 40, 50, 60 hours a month, whatever it may be, we're able to connect you with freelancers that are available and willing to take on those larger ongoing types of working relationships, but still with the flexibility to turn it off when you need to turn it off.
That's rad.
So,
That's cool.
And of course, we did have a question come in. And I would note that, of course, we have, I believe, our Law Clerk micro CLE is up on YouTube. Is that right, Mike?
I'm sorry, say that again.
The Law Clerk Law Clerk micro CLE that we did in the past, I believe that's up on YouTube for people that want to go back and look at that. But also the question is, do you have Law Clerk people highly experienced in plaintiff personal injury?
We do. You know, we have people experienced in a wide variety of practice areas, but we see a lot of personal injury work. We actually right now are helping, and I know that personal injury can encompass a lot of different issues in cases. We have one of our users is doing the big litigation in California against PG&E for the wildfires. And they've built a team of 5 of our freelancers to come in and review and analyze the massive amount of claims that they're receiving with people who've been impacted by the wildfires and want to be a part of this big class action lawsuit. I don't know if that ties directly in, but you know, we, in the world of personal injury, we, you know, even if you're looking at more like perhaps a car accident case or a slip and fall case, one of the cool things is that we've actually have a great segment of the freelancers who have some sort of a medical background. Now they're former nurse, a lot of former nurses that went to law school, and they can come in and help you with medical record review, analyzing those medical records, coming up with strategies for discovery to go get additional information or strategies on the type of expert you need, in addition to the research, the drafting, the motions, the pleadings, that type of analysis. So yeah, we do see a pretty large amount of work related to personal injury come through the site. And I would be remiss to not mention that, you know, we really have priced it to make it affordable and accessible when you need it. There's no sign-up fee. There's no monthly fee. You're only going to pay for work when you actually have a freelancer completing work for you. Okay, so you're going to pay for work when you're getting work done. There's no other fees, you know, that are going to add to your monthly overhead. And I think it's even more important now when we're all acutely aware of that overhead and trying to keep it as low as we can to keep the firm going and get through some tough times.
Jess, you are a user of LawClerk, if I'm not mistaken. Are you on the hirer side or the hiree side? Are you on the LawClerk or the attorney side for that?
I hire other attorneys to do work for me. I'm super curious if people are actually listening right now. I'm super curious if people that are listening right now are solos, small firms, in-house. Like if you are paying attention, throw that in the chat just because I'm curious like where you are in the world of lawyering. I am sort of like an outsourced general counsel for my nonprofit clients. Okay, we got some solos, we got some in-house, 2 attorney firms. So that's good. Keep throwing that in there. That helps the discussion, I think. So it's just me, but like I work, you know, you can think about a nonprofit practice in my case as almost like small business law, right? So nonprofits are businesses and they have a variety of things that happen to them. So, you know, for example, I have a client that was going to hold their annual conference in Texas this year. Well, guess what? They're not having their conference, and they have this contract with a liquidated damages clause where the hotel is trying to shake them down for $35,000. And they're coming to me to say, hey, help us with this. I don't know Texas law, you know, I don't deal with hotel conference contracts on a day in, day out basis. You give me some nonprofit bylaws, you know, I'm singing, but like, help. So I'm able to go to LawClerk, hire somebody who's super competent in that area for a flat fee price, get them to review it, get them to write the nasty gram, put it on my letterhead. And the client thinks I'm a genius, right? Now, of course, I tell my clients that I use experts and other attorneys to get their work done. There's no ethical problem here. But it's amazing what you can actually get done for your clients through a service like this. And because I really, working with nonprofits is not a get rich quick practice area. So I'm always thinking about the cost. And so to be able to know, like, this is the scope of work I need done, and this is the price I'm going to pay for it. There's no sort of like, oh, mystery box. I don't know. Is the flat fee I charged my client for this actually going to come back to bite me in the butt? It's not, because I know exactly what it's going to cost me to get the work done. And I just want to put a shout out for the Teams thing, because one of the hardest things about getting help, as Sabina pointed out, is finding the right person and qualifying and looking at their resumes and blah, blah, blah. And so in a sort of a practice area where you might need to do 3 or 4 different things, it's been so great to be able to like kind of say, I'm starting a team. Do you want to be on this team? Right. I've got a, small nonprofit law team that I'm starting. Do you have any sort of nonprofit experience? Raise your hand. And then I get to look at all the resumes of all the lawyers that are on the site that want to do that kind of work, whether they are experienced or growing into it or whatever. And then when I have a project, I just go, oh, I want to give this to so-and-so. I don't have to sit there and cull through 40 resumes and see if this person is qualified to do that. Because if I had to do that every time I had a project, that would drive me bonkers. So it's just incredibly useful to be able to say, you know what, it's kind of slow right now, and I can just do all this work myself. So I don't need it. And as a solo or somebody in a 2-attorney firm, there's this struggle that you go through, right? Like, oh God, I'm so busy, I should hire an associate. But you never know if that's going to be the case 4 months from now. At a certain point, it makes sense to like, yes, leap, get the paralegal in, but especially right now, I feel like the uncertainty that we're dealing with, if you're getting into bankruptcy law or you're a bankruptcy attorney, oh yeah, sure, go ahead and staff up. You're going to be making hay for the next 3 years, I'm sure. But some of us are going like, there's always that feeling of like, it's really busy now, but does that justify hiring help full-time or even part-time? Because that's a scary prospect as a solo small person, to have that sort of like salary that you have to pay. So I love just being able to scale up or down as I need to, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. The Teams feature is interesting. And it's Sabina referenced the 90-day guarantee, which is great. I mean, I think the stability and having access to those workers when you need them would be so important. Are these teams stable? I mean, so not only are we remote, but we are very remote. I mean, we have to log in. Are you finding that when you need your team, they're available for you, even though you're not sharing an office?
Yeah, typically, by and large. I mean, there's always the exception of, another flexible tool that we built into that is, let's say you've got your team of a handful of lawyers, you need someone to come in and write that opposition to the motion for summary judgment because you don't want to do it. You log into your account, maybe you assign it to Jill on your team. Well, Jill happens to have the flu this week. So she can message you back and say like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm sick this week. My kids are sick. I can't do it. And that gives you the immediate notice you need to then go tag it to someone else on your team. So there's some flexibility because life does happen. Sometimes people are sick or, someday they'll be able to go on vacations again. But by and large, people are available. But a lot of the freelancers too are solo attorneys. And if anybody's listening, you're welcome to join our network. We would love to have you in there if you're at all interested. No fee to sign up for that, no monthly fee for that either. And, it's a natural progression of the practice of law that it's going to ebb and flow. We all know that roller coaster, and you're feast or famine. And so, from time to time too, I think our freelancers, if they've got their own caseload that happens to be pretty busy at the time, they might pass on some freelance work then, but it's pretty rare that work gets sent out and someone says, sorry, I can't do it.
Well, and a couple of things there. You can set the time window in which the person needs to accept the project, and you can make that crazy short, like an hour. I never do. I'm always like, man, give it a couple of days because I plan ahead enough that that's possible. So you can like say, well, this timed out, didn't accept, tag the next person. Now I would love a feature, Kristin, where you could like
Let me
actually
get my pen.
ping the person and say, are you available for this project? I'm going to assign it to you. And sometimes if I've worked with someone before, I'll go into my secured chat with them from a previous project and try and like say like, hey, hello, are you there? But the other thing is I have had it happen where I've tried to assign work to someone and, you know, maybe they got a new job and they've been inactive because they're too busy at their current gig. And my account manager from LawClerk will actually email me right away and say, hey, hi, I see that you tried to assign to this person, but they haven't been very active on the site. So I just want to let you know that, you know, that's the case. So if they don't answer, they're probably just not around right now. So the customer service has been outstanding as far as like checking in, making sure everything's going okay. Like even just in the beginning, I'm so like tech forward and love to try things and think delegation is super important, but it was really hard for me to get started for some reason. I just was like intimidated by the whole concept of having to post this project. And I like called customer service and talked to Ricky and he like walked me through it. And you know, they're really fantastic. Can't say enough good things about it.
So Jess, I'm curious, before you kind of took that plunge, took the step and outsourced the project, had you worked with law clerks or hired associates or done anything like that in the past, or was this kind of your first jump into letting somebody else deal with one of your clients?
Well, I mean, to be fair, they don't deal with the client. They do the work in the background, right? I talk to the client. But yeah, I had never hired an associate before, but I've had law students. I've, you know, had the variety of interns. My practice is so weird that it doesn't really lend itself to having a paralegal. So I've never worked with a legal secretary or a paralegal because I've been, you know, solo or a small firm forever. But this really, it was, in a sense, the first time I'm outsourcing the work to another attorney. And I think the limiting script in my head at the time was around letting somebody else do what I see as only I can do. And I think that's a very common thing for lawyers, right? Like we tend to like hoard all of the work and be like, I'm going to do my own books because I can, because I'm smart and I graduated at the top of my class in law school. And it's like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. And like, no, I shouldn't be, you know, reading the conference contract from a hotel in Texas either. I should give that to somebody who can do it better than me. And yes, I will supervise that work, but it's okay to give up some of the work. It will actually help you. And there was just like it was between the, I don't really know how this website works and I feel like I shouldn't give up my work. So it was a 1-2 punch.
I wonder too if you've ever felt your employees might take off their lawyer hat at some point, or because your paraprofessionals are all barred attorneys. Is it different working with somebody that Sabina's recommending versus an attorney that comes in through LawClerk? I don't know who I'm asking that question to.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand the question either, Mike.
Yeah, so I've tested LawClerk myself on the LawClerk side, and it was the customer service was great. I mean, it was a lot of fun, and I think Kristin, I don't know, I think you called me actually to say, I see this is your first gig. I just want to make sure the process is going right. I don't think you knew it was me, and
Probably not. No.
And, I didn't realize it was you until after the call, but great experience.
Yeah.
But part of the experience was the work that I did sort of felt like I could take off my lawyer hat and just be a paralegal and say, here's the research, now I'm done, rather than saying, are you sure about this, right? Are you sure you want to do this?
Right.
It doesn't look like the right setup for you.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the allure for a lot of our freelancers is that a lot of the freelancers have built entire careers on doing freelance work. And a lot of them do work directly for a certain number of attorneys or firms. And then they supplement that with LawClerk. Some of them get all of their work to feed their family through LawClerk. But in talking to these people, these are people that they just want to do the lawyering. They don't want to do the business side of running a firm, dealing with clients, dealing with the court, being responsible for the overarching case that can go on for years and years and years. They want to just do the analysis and the strategy, or the analysis and the written work. And it's a dream job for a lot of lawyers to just do that and not have the headaches of the rest of it.
It's like the joy of going back to law school. Like you basically are doing the academic exercise, which is, so much of the time after you graduate, that's not what lawyering is all about.
Yes,
You're
exactly.
Dealing with people and their problems and all of that stuff. I've also been super impressed with the people who are not career freelancers. I'm actually getting this in-house head of HR at this ginormous corporation to review this employee handbook for me. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
So I will say, I've never taken the plunge and hired anybody through LawClerk or with the RCBA over there. But what I will say is my experience has been simply going through and looking for law clerks. And because I think you talked about this a little bit, the writing and the research is a little bit like going back to law school. What I've found is sometimes you can get fantastic work out of law students, and they haven't had that opportunity to lose sight of the research and the background and the information. This is a question for Sabina, does the RCBA, I know that we deal with paralegals and, kind of trying to coordinate hires for attorneys as well. Anything in regards to law students? I know that's a lot more temporary in that regard.
In fact, there's a title company that I'm working with, okay, and he specifically wanted say a first-year law student, okay. So I was able to get one for him. He just enrolled in Mitchell Hamlin. So it depends on the attorney and the job that he might be looking to fill. So depending on what, we do place first year, law students as well. Okay. And similarly, whenever there was a need for a very entry-level paralegal, I reach out to Hamlin Paralegal Program Director, and I ask her, do you have any are there any students interested in this position? So she would advertise it on our behalf, and then students will get in touch with us directly. So yes, we do place law school students as well, but we have not ventured placing attorneys. Okay, so RCBA only does the support staff like paralegals, legal secretaries, and legal assistants.
Okay.
Are you connected with the Paralegal Association locally here, the Minnesota group?
Yes, I got in touch with them, and I think you have to become a member to kind of advertise your jobs and all with them. I'm still, I'm talking to them. I haven't become a member yet. I'm in talks with them.
And I will note, so I have paralegals that will typically work with me each semester from Inver Grove. And, some of the paralegals that I've had work with me are very impressive. A few of them, I kind of wonder if, how much legal experience they might have had before going over to the paralegal program. Some of them have worked with law firms in the past. And for those that I have that come through that are really impressive, and I want to, make sure they get placed somewhere. Do you have any recommendations for how they can get going, Sabina?
I mean, so they're looking for, Landon, if I understand the question correctly, you're asking if, I mean, where can they go for their jobs, right?
They're ultimately going to want to find a nice permanent job where they can do the amazing work that they did for me.
Right.
And I would want to encourage them and help them find good placement. What's the best way for me to coordinate that?
I mean, they can check the job database at the Minnesota Paralegal Association. They have a pretty good website where they place where they advertise the job openings. Okay, or the Minnesota Legal Administrative Assistant chapter, where they have a website, a job bank as well. And ask them, they can also send a resume to us. I mean, we sometimes will look for entry-level paralegals, and then, I can get in touch with them. Or maybe there are so many other agencies in town, the bigger ones like Robert Half, Special Counsel and all. So maybe, that's another way to go about it. I mean, I would love to have a resume from them because we do place entry-level people at times.
Sorry, just bringing up the websites. We've chatted with both those associations on a number of occasions. It's been interesting. The Minnesota Paralegals Association does an interesting, I don't know what they're doing this year, but they had an interesting annual event that was fun to go to. And they had, it was, they had big name speakers. I felt like it was really great programming.
Yeah, I mean, I think mostly now that they're doing it remotely now. They do have like an annual event. Yeah.
I'm just curious if audience members want to post, what sort of outsourcing are you considering? Are you thinking about hiring? Are you weighing all your options right now? Are you, are you thinking you're going to have a lot more work in a specific area? I'm just curious if people are willing to share, what brought you here? Why are you thinking about outsourcing? Because I think as a solo small lawyer, it's one of those things that's sort of constantly on your mind because you're kind of you're the finder, the minder, and the grinder. Often in a very small practice, which is, I got to give Paul Floyd a shout out for those words because that's who I learned that from. But you got to find the clients, you got to take care of the clients, and you've got to do the work. And I thought this year was going to be super dead, but it turns out everybody's having all sorts of problems, and unfortunately, that's good for business.
Yeah.
And I will say we had a question that came in, Sabina, and I guess one of these I'm going to kind of cut to the chase. I know that you're working through the RCBA. Has there been discussion of kind of transitioning that role to more of an MSBA role and kind of working more statewide?
As of now, I just do not. Okay, so we do help attorneys not just in the Ramsey County but beyond. Okay, so it really does not. I mean, we are still RCBA, but we still help attorneys in any part of the state. So I have placed people in law firms in Minneapolis, which is Hennepin County, and so we are not just restricted to Ramsey County, but we do for everyone. Okay. So yeah, we're trying to reach out to the wider community, and that's why I think this forum is it's great for us, so that I can reach out to you all and then let you know that we are there to help you no matter where you are in Minnesota.
And is there a price or contract difference if the person that is looking for placement or the person that is looking to bring somebody in is an RCBA member?
No, if we just have a flat rate of 10% to all members across Minnesota. So I mean, no, there is There is no benefit if you're just a Ramsey County member. It's the same for all.
Okay, and so I do see a few people mentioning and pointing out that, of course, they need somebody, they're looking for somebody they like to hire, they don't know if they should be hiring full-time, part-time, contract work. I'd of course recommend to those individuals to reach out both to Sabina and to Kristin and look into those services. You know, I think I'm familiar with the RCBA placement a little bit. I've had some paralegals look into that in the past and been happy with that. And of course, Kristin, we had you on here before to talk about LawClerk, and I've been very interested in that. So I think they're great programs, and I would encourage people to reach out to both of you to see what placement you'd actually need. Do you guys have discussions? Obviously, you know, especially for LawClerk, there's an attempt to sell the business, but I think it's an honest attempt to sell the business and not trying to, you know, sell something that people don't actually want. But do you guys have a chance to, is there a place where they can talk about what their needs actually are to see if it's a good fit?
Absolutely. And our team, you know, I know that everybody's situation is different and right now changing. So I actually just asked Mike if it would be appropriate. I'm happy to share my email address if folks want to connect one-on-one. If my schedule is such that I can't get on the phone with you, I've got a great team that we could talk to you one-on-one. And honestly, sometimes that's a big help. Just talking through, these are my challenges. This is what I wish I could do. Can we help you or not? If we're not a help, we know of a lot of other resources out there too, and we're happy to help connect you in a different way. If you know, if you're talking to us, but really what you need is someone to help with marketing for the firm, then we're going to steer you towards a marketing agency. Or if really what you need is a virtual receptionist that can help weed out good potential clients on the phone versus junk, we're going to send you there too. And so we're happy to talk you through, no charge for that. If anybody wants to take me up on that, shoot me an email. It's Tyler at LawClerk.legal. And I'd be happy to connect with you one-on-one and see if it's a fit. We can even give you a demo. If you're like, I'm a very visual learner, and to me, the power of seeing a demo of how the site works really helps bring it to life, and it makes a lot of people think like, oh, I could do this or I could do that. So happy to do that. And also I just wanted to mention too, we are in the member benefits program with the Minnesota Bar. So I believe there's a rebate offer. If you give us a try, you definitely want to take advantage of that.
Glad you mentioned that. That I think might have motivated me a little bit more. Hey,
there you go.
Always good to know that there are businesses out there that also appreciate the Bar Association. I think that means, at least to me now, given I'm involved in pretty much everything with the Bar Association. But that means a lot. That also means that to me, the Bar Association has done some vetting of the organization and has found that would be valuable for the members. It's not just yeah, we're going to recommend anyone. I think there's some value. So appreciate that.
I was interested to hear, it was Laura and I think it was Bridget who said they're coming from in-house roles. I'd be interested to know kind of what their needs are. I have this idea of who these services serve, and I wouldn't have guessed that it would have been a legal department. But Sabina and Kristin, maybe you can speak to that as well. Do you know how many folks are coming from in-house?
In terms of corporate legal, we have a surprising number of our freelancers that have in-house experience. Especially it seems like from folks on the coast. We have a ton of people with big law experience, former in-house. So yeah, that always surprises me too, but it's a when you look at in-house, it's a pretty sizable chunk of the legal market. So it makes sense that you would see people coming out. And even one of the freelancers that comes to mind that I think Jess was referencing that helped her with the project, some of them are just folks that, for whatever reason, the company maybe it's slow at the office and they're just hustlers. They want to make some extra money. So they go and freelance in their spare time, evenings or weekends.
Cruise ship fund to take their family on vacay.
Exactly.
I think on the in-house side, those folks are a lot like me, where they're helping their client, the company, with 10,000 things in a year, right? So they may need to hire with like a scalpel, you know, I need this right now. And so on the hiring side, that makes sense to me that in-house counsel would be looking for cost-effective ways to find really great talent to do some of those like precision tasks that their company needs too.
And you're the jack of all trades. And I know a lot of our members have said that they are, I don't know why it occurred to me earlier, but the folks in the corporate counsel section will tell me that they are, you know, solo practitioners, actually, that they have one client and it's only them. So the department is just, you know, one or two people very often. So this seems like a great idea for them as well.
And thinking, you know, knowing the in-house counsel that I do, I mean, some are very large organizations that might contract with many different large law firms, but I have to assume that there's a few organizations out there that have in-house counsel that they're not actually that big. They could still use the research, they could still use the information, and in doing that, of course, being able to reach out through LawClerk, maybe they can develop those relationships and find what ultimately might be outside counsel that they can contract with in the future. Do you have a lot of those situations that turn from working, well, and I don't know if you know the statistics behind this, but organizations that move from working strictly through LawClerk and then maybe transition into a more permanent role or relationship where it is done outside of LawClerk? I don't know if you.
Yeah, it does, and we consider those a, you know, a success story when, whether, you know, if nothing else, outsourcing is a great way to kind of kick the tires to see if you're really busy enough to justify hiring someone part-time or full-time. It's a great way to try it before you buy it, because making that full-time hire is a major commitment. It's expensive. I've spent the last 2.5 years until, you know, COVID, traveling the country, talking to solo and small firm lawyers. And I can't tell you how many of them I talked to, and they're like, yeah, I haven't paid myself in 2 months or 3 months because I got to pay my associate. And I hate to hear that. It just shouldn't be that way. And so outsourcing is the perfect solution to test it out, see how it goes. For a lot of folks, they like the flexibility of outsourcing and the peace of mind that they're still going to be able to pay themselves. So they make it a long-term solution. But we hear a lot of stories of, you know, hey, I was hesitant to take on this big case or this new client because I didn't know if I could handle the volume of the work. I proved to myself I could with outsourcing. I think it makes more sense now to get another attorney on staff. So, you know, I need to, some people will even call it, it's like, hey, I need to turn off my LawClerk account. You don't really need to, but, and they'll turn it off because they've made a hire. And we think that's a great success. If we can be a part of the story of a solo attorney or a small firm growing their firm, getting that confidence to make a hire, like that's awesome.
And that probably increases the probability that they'll come back to you the next time they're looking to do another hire or things like that.
Yeah, well, we sure hope so. We're always there.
Well, and I can just speak from the hiring side to using the platform, because I've definitely hired people locally in the same kind of a way. Like, oh, hey, I know you, you're a great employment lawyer. Will you look at this handbook for me? Will you do this thing for me? Honestly, half the time I'm like, can I get them to sign up for LawClerk? Because everything happens in the platform, the billing, the invoicing, the secure chat, document sharing. And when it's outside of that system, I tend to just like, did I pay that guy for the thing that he did for me? I don't know. They're busy. They didn't necessarily invoice me. And it's just, I don't really have a good accounts payable process. Because, you know, I'm like,
you're going to have to tech that up, Jess.
Yeah. And then it's like I'm texting them and I'm emailing them, and it's just really disorganized when I do it that way. And so I actually like that it all lives in the platform, because I just know, like, okay, I'm going to go here and I'm going to do the things, and it's secure, and it's all in one place. So with the nature of my practice, I'm not hiring anybody long-term, but.
I mean, I think going through, you had mentioned, you know, can this person like switch over? Maybe we could do this through LawClerk instead. I think that the similarity between bringing in an associate or bringing in somebody to do some work and just individual relationships that people have. You know, we see that statistically, the relationships that are the strongest and go forward the smoothest typically have that friend connection. So, you know, the studies have shown essentially if there's somebody in common, people are more likely to engage in a relationship and have positive relationships. So similar with LawClerk, just having that third party that you can turn to and say, hey, you know, we had this relationship and this person was going to do this project and they blew me off, you know, and having that person, that intermediary, that law clerk that can essentially say, you know what, you were right. Yeah, you asked for this and you gave them all the stuff that they needed. And I can't believe they blew you off. You get that vetting, that support. And I can see that being a really positive thing. Both
and the
in
friend
the
thing is kind of a negative locally too, because you're like, my colleague that I know charges $3.50 an hour, and then I'm going to hire them to do this project, and then I feel bad that I don't really want to pay them retail. But on the LawClerk platform, I'm not going to pay retail rates for the work, because they're doing it in their sort of as a paraprofessional capacity. And that just takes away that whole awkward, like, well, you bill out at this, but like I really only want to pay you that. And that gets, like, we're in Minnesota, we're not direct communicators. Like, that's hard here, to try and negotiate lower rates for people that, you know, are billing themselves out at $250, $300 an hour.
I will say on the opposite side, you know, I've thought once or twice after our previous micro CLE regarding LawClerk, I've thought once or twice, you know, I could go on there and I could post my stuff and write something up for another. I don't know if there's very many criminal defense attorneys on there, but I could write something up. And I think my hesitation is I wasn't top of my class. You know, I see you guys go through that scroll. This person graduated in the top 10%, top 3%. And I'm like, I wasn't up there. I feel like I'm a good writer. I feel like I do good research, but also, you know, putting myself out there to say I can get you some amazing product, that's a little intimidating to me. So I don't know if people run into that aspect as well. Hey, you know, I'd love to do this contract work, but you know, I'm not going to write the next great American novel. You know, am I going to do good enough quality work for whoever's looking for the product?
That's really interesting. So one of the, I guess, pieces of credentials that a freelancer does put up in when they apply for projects is you have the ability to provide a writing sample. So what I would say is, if you're at all curious about that, make your profile, put a writing sample. It's there for the hiring attorney to look and review. Maybe they really like your writing style and it's a good fit for that lawyer in their practice. But I have no doubt that lawyers working with you would be very pleased with that work product. So, but I appreciate you sharing that.
You also haven't seen my writing sample.
I haven't. And I'm an estate planner, so I would think anything you wrote was great. So
you can say this is my style guide. Like, from the hiring perspective, when I post a project, I have like a quick sheet that's like, this is how I write, plain English, use this heading style, do whatever, double space paragraphs, block paragraphs, because you have a way that you want your work done. And there's nothing more aggravating than getting a piece of work from somebody and you're like, oh, you indented and I use block paragraphs and now I have to sit there and waste my time. So just make a style sheet that's like, this is how I write and this is how your work product needs to come back to me, which is a great hack for either paralegal or law clerk.
Yes, I mean, I agree. I mean, you know, at RCBA Placement Services, we give out a test to the candidates, okay, like a basic English test and a typing test. Now with the pandemic, I mean, we are doing it remotely, and that particular English test, you know, we are not able to give it out remotely. So in lieu of the test, what I ask from the candidates is that they provide me work samples, you know, writing samples of like pleadings or anything that they may have drafted. So that gives us an idea as to, you know, what, you know, I mean, how good they are at in drafting, in their drafting skills. And sometimes attorneys, they like to see that. And you know, one of the attorneys that I worked with, she was very particular about the drafting skills. And so she wanted to see samples, you know, at least 2 of them. So, you know, I think we, you know, whenever we get a job request, from the attorney saying that, hey, you know, I need to see a work sample of this person before even I hire her or him. So that's when, you know, we bring in those samples for the attorneys to look at. So yeah, I mean, you know, we try to find a good candidate for you.
Does anybody have the ProCertis certification on there, the legal tech assessment? Do you know what I'm talking about? So Casey Flaherty's product, where you demonstrate your basic competency in Word, Excel, PDF.
Yes, I mean, there are some tests on, say, you know, the job boards like Indeed, Glassdoor and all. I think mostly Indeed. They have, you know, you can take those tests online, and you know, the employers can see that. So it's already there in these websites these days, and I think it's very valuable.
I think most lawyers would fail this.
Most
I know
lawyers
I worked with a legal adjacent nonprofit that was mostly a bunch of like legal professionals, and they sent me their bylaws and they didn't use the styles at all.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have
We,
headings? What's wrong with you?
we've been promoting ProCertis for years now, and I think it's a cool service. I think we even got CLE credit for this thing, but it is a hard sell. It's a hard sell, at least among attorneys. I wonder if the paralegals that Sabina works with might have more amenability to this kind of thing. So.
Yeah, I will say, you know, I did tech work for years before going to law school, and wrote the rough draft for our web page when we got up and running. But as far as my tech ability, every time I see this, I'm thinking, you know, I could do really good at that, but I'm probably missing some of the tips and tricks out there. So I'm always more curious on learning the tips and tricks as opposed to just, you know, kind of going through and testing and getting the certification or whatnot. Is just, you know, I'd rather learn the tips and tricks myself.
Landon doesn't want to be told that he's not good at Word.
That's true.
You don't want to find out
Picked up
where
on that
what the
already.
things are you don't know.
But Landon needs to go into legal tech. I mean, you're not legit unless you know, dropped out of a Ivy League, you know, you gotta.
I'm literally wearing my shirt for that. There you go.
Nice.
That's awesome, Jess.
We are at the top of the hour, well past our cutoff time, guys. I really enjoying this conversation, but I need to respect everyone's time. Thanks everyone for joining us. I'm going to paste in. I neglected to grab the CLE code before we logged in today, but there's my email. Just drop me an email and I'll reply once I grab the CLE code for you.
Is it MN bars plural?
It is.
Okay, just making sure.
That wasn't my favorite decision for the bar association, but the reason it's bars is because we are connected now with Sabina.
Oh,
Yeah, we are all connected now. Yeah.
that's great.
We're one big happy family, so that's why it's bars. It's bar associations, not bars.
I still say annually we need to have like a bar party where people bring like their best bar recipes, like lemon bars, brownies.
Such a good idea.
We need to work this in because now that it's bars.
Yeah.
Somebody put me on the events committee.
She just volunteered.
That might need to be our first in-person event when we can finally have in-person events.
I agree. I totally agree.
And Jess, we've got you at noon today, correct?
Yeah, come watch me talk about automation with Zapier. If you don't know what that word is, that's okay. Just come anyway.
I shared a Zapier blog post yesterday in the conference website. I'm going to just post in. I got a request for, it's at the bottom of the chat, folks. mcarlson@minbars.org. There it is 2 times. Thank you all for joining us. I really appreciate it. This is a great conversation and extremely helpful. We'll get it posted to the to the conference website as well. So if folks need to repeat or you want to recommend it to anyone, it'll be there. So thank you so much, and everyone have a great day. And Jess, we'll see you at noon.
Yes.
And
Thank you,
Sabina
Mike.
and
Thanks,
Kristin,
everyone.
Bye.
It's good to see you guys again. Jess, it was nice to meet you.
Yeah, same.
Good to see everyone. Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
great day. Bye,
Thanks.
guys.